I'm a bad motherfucker.
Recovery, goddamn.
Yeah, I could see your hair's coming back in.
Yes, it's coming back in, but my hair grows really quick. That's why I cut it that short. Yeah.
You
It
know,
does grow quick.
if the
thank
tumor
God.
comes back, we just interviewed a fella on Wednesday who
I know,
has
keto diet, right?
the keto diet, and then you take this pill called the Don pill, and that takes care of the glutamate, and you starve the cancer tumor. And of course that cancer treatment's being suppressed. In fact, when I dropped the video, when I put it up before I dropped it, they demonetized it. Not kidding. Anyway, I'm here with Russ and Keaton, and it's good to see them. And good coverage, by the way, on the Julian Assange trial. It was fantastic.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
You guys have been doing some real out of the ballpark great jobs over there. Good work. Good work over at Due Dissonance. I always can never remember if it's Due Dissonance or Due Dissonance. I can never. It's with the T.
Some people do get that mixed up a lot, to the point where if you enter Due Dissonance, which is the wrong one, in the YouTube search, our channel shows up anyway. So it really doesn't matter, because I guess enough people have made that mistake that it goes to the same place. So whatever works for people.
So I shouldn't take it as an insult anymore, because usually when I see that, I think they're taking the piss, as our British friends would say.
No, people used to think that was the name of the show.
Yeah. No, I honestly, I can't remember. It's not an insult.
I know you're not taking the piss, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, it's dissidents. Yeah, that's
not today.
And I also caught a little. Anyway, I don't even want to talk about it. But the Cornel West thing was just.
Yeah, we covered that too.
Wow.
And RBN did like a 4-hour stream about it. I don't know if you watched.
Oh, did they?
Show. They did 4 hours.
That was good. That was their Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah, it was good.
No, I didn't see that. They just did it like yesterday or something.
Couple days.
They did it a few days ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to it. It's worth the watch. It's good.
Oh, sure. I got the time. And
you watch it on 1.5 speed.
Me and Jack Nephew. That's all we got. We got nothing but time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You see, I saw Glenn Greenwald did a thing about the people. Like he did a thing on Jenk's nephew about how he it's so funny that anyway, I always thought he was a meathead, right? And that people didn't take him seriously. But ladies really like him because apparently he's very attractive to women. Now, if he's not my type, put it that way. I'm more of a Jude Law. I like more of a feminine, and
right. You have more like European taste, right?
Yeah.
Like.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I like a guy who would. I like a guy who would look good in a dress. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Cillian Murphy, that kind of thing.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. And he's more like a hairy, sweaty. Anyway, who cares? The point is, the ladies
I
like
don't know where
him.
you could possibly have gotten that from.
But the ladies like him, and that's all that really matters. And so he does big business on that Twitch, which I don't even know where to go find. Do you type in twitch.com? I wouldn't even know.
It's twitch.tv. We have a Twitch channel. I have absolutely no idea how to work it. We stream there. Just
we used to get Twitch raids. We used to get people come in from there.
Really?
Yeah, we used to. It's actually, it's not that uncommon. It's weird because it's a whole different world than we come out of. This gamer to political commentator, he's not the only one where they stream gaming or started out doing that and moved into political commentary and do both.
So it's people who like to watch other people play video games.
Yeah.
Possibly the only more waste of a time than playing video games would be watching other people play video games. That's beyond my comprehension of what's wrong with the world.
That's why the whole bee colony is collapsing.
I think you're correct. And because of the great journalism of people like Taylor Lorenz. But
Yes.
like she calls herself a journalist, like they're necessary. You know, people aren't going to like what they see or the world without journalists. Yeah, like anyway. But is that video ready? Is it? It is ready. We're going to show it today. Do you want me to say anything or no?
You had to sit down with Taylor Lorenz.
Yes.
You were the next. You were the next target.
Right. So, by the way, it turns out that they filmed her and that Kaya.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
They filmed
she's
it
doing a
right out in
series.
front, right down the street from our house, right in front of where,
At Aroma Cafe where he got the coffee one night.
right where you got the coffee, right next to the theater that we do the show in. Remember?
Oh, was that where that was?
That's where they did that, right there.
That was a great cup of coffee. I will say that. It was a
Okay.
little slow, but it was a great cup of coffee.
So yeah, well, that's why there's lines out the door. But we went.
Yeah.
So Misha and Steph went and filmed a sketch there yesterday, and we're
Oh wow, that's
and
That's funny.
we'll see it. We'll see. It was.
Well, Keaton's going to come out when I come in April, so maybe we'll go over there.
Oh, no kidding.
Keaton's coming
Yeah.
out. Oh, that's great.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
what,
that's
are you
the
bringing?
plan.
Are you bringing your kids?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring the family out.
Little Disneyland, maybe little Universal Studios.
Disneyland. My uncle lives in Long Beach. There's that great. There's a great aquarium that they would love. So we'll take them there too.
Oh,
They're
really?
big into animals. Yeah.
Yeah, he's staying at his uncle's house.
Yeah, my uncle lives in Long Beach. Yeah.
Oh, we're here. We're aquarium. Get used to it.
Yeah. There
Okay.
you go. Exactly.
Okay, so I don't know if so Jon Stewart's at it again. Now, Jon Stewart, last year, he went on Stephen Colbert
Yeah.
and he told people where the virus came from. It came from the Wuhan lab. Stephen Colbert flipped out, tried to stop him. Jon Stewart wouldn't stop saying it. And so then he was kicked out of polite society for about a year. And no kidding, it really shook him. In fact, he did an episode about how it shook him, about how people were angry at him for that, for telling the truth. Because now people without religion have replaced science as their religion. So science can't be questioned. Science is now a religion, and that's to the people who like to vote Democrat. That's a fact. And Carl Jung predicted this, by the way. I'm reading the book, The Undiscovered Self, and he predicted all this, and he explains how this works. And so Jon Stewart got kicked out of that polite society by people who treat science and government as a religion. And he'd been trying to get himself back in. So to get himself back in, he hung a medal on a literal Nazi. Jon Stewart, he gave an award to a Nazi, literally. That's for the Ukraine war. And he'll never tell his audience the truth about the Ukraine war. He also then did promotion PR for the COVID-19 vaccine, where he brought on 3 vaccine liars. And they lied to you about almost everything. And John went along with it as if he was actually curious. And then he did a tongue bath to 2 of the biggest blood-soaked warmongers in the history, Condoleezza Rice and Hillary Clinton. So those are the 3 things he had to do to get back in. And then he did another one where he then went after Tucker Carlson. Now, Tucker Carlson's been doing the best journalism of any mainstream news journalist around for at least the last 3, 4, 5 years, ever since the Syrian war. And Jon Stewart, of course, has been doing nothing except simping for the establishment. And so Jon Stewart then had to come out and say this after Tucker Carlson went to Russia and said, hey, it's really nice here. It's nicer than the United States. Why is that? And like a true adult child of an alcoholic, Americans didn't get mad at the people who are making our subway system and our cities failed and filthy and crime-ridden. They got mad at the guy who pointed that out, Tucker Carlson, and Jon Stewart enabled them like a good adult child of an alcoholic.
Because the difference between our urinal-caked, chaotic subways and your candelabred, beautiful subways is the literal price of freedom.
So,
Oh my God.
so that's so the reason why there's rats and urinal-caked subways and filth and crime and graffiti, it's because we have freedom. I've been to other countries that have freedom. They don't look like this.
No.
And he's
No.
pretending that Russia is the Russia from 40 years ago. meaning it's the communist. It's not a communist state anymore. It's the same crony capitalist bullshit that we have here, except they don't. It's not as bad apparently. So then here he had to do a both sides thing on Hamas and Israel, pretending like they're both equally bad. So that's his new thing now. His new thing now is to try to pretend both sides are just as bad as each other. And let's watch this.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu finally laid out his plan for peace.
Benjamin Netanyahu is calling for complete demilitarization of Gaza, as well as Israel taking over security and controlling entry and exit points to Gaza.
So your peace plan is a siege, a military siege. You really think a military solution ends this cycle?
So there's Jon Stewart really giving it to Netanyahu the way he deserves. He just playfully roasts him like this was a birthday get-together and he's the official comedian, and his friends at the office said, hey, give our guy some shit. It's his birthday. That's what that was like. He'll love it. Ha ha, BB. You know, I'm just kidding. So then he goes on, and here's the real bad part.
Look, the Israeli position doesn't seem so tenable. Perhaps I can find some diplomatic leeway in the Hamas position.
Israel is a country that has no place on our land. We must remove that country.
Does that mean the annihilation of Israel?
Yes, of course.
I cannot find diplomatic leeway in the Hamas position.
So here we see Jon Stewart for the elite trying simultaneously to regain street cred while also not angering his masters and winding up in the leather gimp suit in the punishment dungeon for another week. It's a tricky balancing act, having to look like you actually have compassion for the guys in population while at the same time completely ignoring the real cause of everything involved. That's what Jon Stewart just did. Let me bring in. So this is his new game now, and his game is to. It's very MSNBC-like, and he's not telling you the true story of what's happening. He's pretending like both sides are wrong, and he's doing it in a way using the kind of humor that you would use at someone's birthday party. But let me throw it over to the boys from Do Dissonant.
I mean, he and the rest of these libs in the media, they're such anti-racists, right? They're so anti-racist, yet it is incumbent upon an imprisoned group of brown people living in an open-air concentration camp to be diplomatic towards the people who are torturing them, brutalizing them, surveilling them, bombing them, and now starving them. Oh, not too much diplomacy coming from that side. Would you say, Nat Turner wasn't as diplomatic as he should have been towards his masters? That's what he's saying, but they would never say it in that context. In this context, sure. He goes on in that segment, too, because I watched the whole segment. It was a horrible segment. He goes on to pin some blame on the UN as well. Well, the UN's not helping because there's all this dysfunction at the UN. Dysfunction caused by the United States. The UN is fully unified in favor of a ceasefire, except for us. We're the ones sabotaging the UN. So yeah, this was both sidesing it all over the place. He just wanted to give his audience the moral cover to throw their hands up and say, well, it's complicated. It's a terrible situation, but there's blame to go around, and we can still feel exactly the way we feel now without feeling too bad about ourselves for it. That was the entire purpose of this monologue. It was really quite awful.
Yeah, that is a framing that we've heard forever. And it's something that Israel apologists always hide behind. And he actually says that straight out in the course of that monologue. Well, yes, it's a complicated history. It's really not complicated.
Not complicated.
It's really not complicated. Mostly European Jews who were not from that region took out what had been done to them by Nazi Germany on a population that had nothing to do with it, displaced them from their homes, drove them out, and established an apartheid state. It's not complicated at all. It's the simplest fucking thing in the world. And throughout that, and as Keaton points out, the UN segment was so deceptively edited. The more you watch Jon Stewart now, the more you realize how much of classic Daily Show was probably bullshit, but you just didn't realize it because you weren't looking for it. Because now that you know so much of what he's saying is bullshit, you look at the tactics he uses. If you know the subject, you know he picked somebody, for example, who can't make an argument, who's not media ready, who's not going to be comfortable to make them look like an idiot in order to discredit the thing he's trying to discredit. And then you look back on The Daily Show, how often they had these mumbling, stuttering people. And now knowing the subjects, you say, well, why didn't he interview this person, this person, this person, this person who could have given him an argument? And he never does.
And of course, he's ignoring the fact that Hamas's new charter does recognize the borders of 1967, which would give the Palestinians the Gaza and the West Bank, and Israel the rest, and he doesn't care. So I'm sure. Go ahead.
And the thing that you showed there, I haven't seen that whole monologue, but I've been to 5 countries in the last 12 months. And the only country that's somewhat like the United States that I've been to was India, an impoverished third world country. To say that this is the price of freedom, Greece is not a shithole. Italy's not a shithole. England's not a shithole. They have their problems, but only the United States is the kind of shithole where you see just crumbling roads and infrastructure. I have not seen that anywhere else in the Western world. I'm here right now in New Orleans. I am telling you, you could go 2 miles from where I'm staying. I'm near Tulane, so it's relatively upscale over here. You go 2 miles from here, there are roads where the asphalt is gone, where you can see like little chunks of asphalt, and it's dirt roads. There is no other Western country that I've been to that is in that condition.
And I'm sure
the holes of freedom.
That's right. The price of freedom.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone expects us to have both sympathy and empathy for how torn poor Jon Stewart is in the middle of all this, trying to do the right thing while knowing what will happen to him if he actually does, and choosing the wrong thing and then trying to make up for it in this back and forth over and frickin' over again. What a gripping hero's journey this is for Jon. I'm sure Netflix will do a biopic on Jon and his struggles to keep Zionism alive, along with his own reputation as a human being alive as well. I think it's going to be called Lucky Yet Fucked, the Jon Stewart Show. So other people have made lots of points. Let me show this. John Perry says, Jon keeps up the preferred teaching of the Middle East in general. They all hate each other and have for 1,000 years. We've tried everything. Imposed borders, bombing, chaos instigation, bombing, arms sales, bombing, imposed leaders, and, well, bombing. But nothing works. Here's 3 in a row. This is so sad. Jon could have educated people on what is going on. Instead, he just made a poor joke, but not surprised. Zionists keep playing this clip over and over as if this guy makes the policy for Hamas. That's your point, Russ. He points out to this guy. Anyway, he also said free the hostages, but didn't say a thing about the Palestinians held in Israeli jails. One more. Hamas literally accepted a Palestinian state within the 67 borders. Israel walked away from that. These last 4 months, Israel has made an excellent case for the Hamas position on this, by the way. They're starving children, blowing up children, women and children and grandparents. They're literally starving them, and they're admitting they're doing this. They're cutting off their water, they're cutting off their food. They're doing this to do it's called mass punishment, group punishment, which is a war crime. And they're doing it right out in the open. That's what they're doing. They're bombing them, killing them. It's a genocide. There's no other word for this. I guess some people like to say ethnic cleansing because it sounds nicer. It's like the difference between torture and enhanced interrogation techniques. But it's the same thing. You're bombing civilians on purpose, and the ones you're not bombing, you're starving on purpose. Starving. Like that, for real, they're dying from starvation. Children. And Jon Stewart's like, they're both little,
well, that's the New York Times readership, too. I think we're going to do a segment on that later in the stream, if I'm not wrong. But, he has to give his audience this kind of moral cover that the libs always seek, right? We have to feel bad about what's going on in Gaza. Otherwise, we're not good liberals. But we can't feel too bad about it to the point where we can't stomach a vote for Biden because then we're not good liberals, right? So they have to constantly keep those two things in their head at the same time. They have to juggle those things. Right. Exactly. Right. They have to bear witness to it, but not to the point where they actually abandon the basic premise that Biden is the only thing standing between, us and the hell that will be a second Trump term. And if you get too bitter about this, then you end up like those Michigan voters who vote uncommitted and say they're not going to vote Biden in November. And that's a very, very uncomfortable place for an upper middle class New Yorker to find themselves.
Okay, over to Steph.
All right, thank you.
I'm Josh Shakespeare.
I'm Chris Keene.
And this is pretty bad news. California homeless people were found living in caves 20 feet below street level. Apartments.com have listed the caves at $2,300 with utilities included.
After a San Francisco area school hired a company called Woke Kindergarten to train teachers, they reported some of the lowest reading scores in the state. To be fair, it's hard to teach people how to read when every word is offensive.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy.